Everyone smiles when things are going well. We appear happy, content, fulfilled, and no one is worrying about our mental health when we look happy, right? We attend social events, we post pictures, we're actively engaged in our social networks, and no one expresses concern because we look happy. When life feels challenging, most of us don't express the emotional struggles that come with life's challenges. When we're struggling, often we're just internally dealing with the emotional highs and lows that are never expressed in casual conversation, and sometimes not even expressed with our closest friends and confidants. A lot of us deal with stress internally. We compartmentalize it into spaces in our body, maybe stress in our shoulders, lower back, hips, or we internalize it into feelings of anxiety, depression. Most of us process emotional struggle internally. Now, there are a lot of people that internal processing of stress and tension is communicated through aggression, anger, fear, resentment, things that are expressed in different emotional ways that have origins in, these highs and lows that we all go through in life. So depending on what the circumstance is, depending on how we process it, depends on how it's expressed, either in our body language, our communication, our relationships. And it's so easy to identify the people who are emotionally expressive. The friends that, will cry or express anger, or who will be very open in communicating how they feel. Those friends, it's very obvious, when they need help or are reaching out for support. It's the friends who are always appearing successful and happy that I think we have to consciously set the intention to reach out to more even than the people who easily express their emotions. I've had several friends who have shared traumatic circumstances with me in confidence, but you would never know that the pain that they're carrying when you see them out in public or if you're following them on social media pages, because they don't express that. They don't wear their emotions on their sleeve. They don't tell you when they need help or support or encouragement because they're so used to being the strong friend. They're so used to standing in their strength, or they've created this persona of success that they make the effort to live up to that all the time. And it's harder for them to process the lows. We're all dealing with highs and lows. And regardless of how we think someone is doing, we never truly know the highs that someone feels, how high someone has climbed when they felt the highs of accomplishment and perceived success. And we never know how low someone feels if they're falling into the depths of despair, depression, or doubt. That's why it's so important for us to check on our strong friends. Check on the friends who never ask for help. The friends who always seem put together, the friends who never cry or appear to need support. It's so important to check on our strong friends because often they're the least likely to reach out in times of need. And we never really know, how high someone feels when they feel truly accomplished, like they've reached their goals, where they feel successful. That high even is hard to communicate. Like you never really are able to verbalize how happy you feel or how in love you are. It's hard to communicate that verbally because it's a deep emotion. And so even the people that we see who are obviously successful, we don't really even know how happy they are in those moments of success. And in the same way, we never truly know how someone is feeling in the depths of depression, feeling doubt, discouraged. We don't know the range of that emotional space of the highs and the lows. So it's important that we give people the support and encouragement in every possible circumstance and scenario in life, so that, we kind of give people the freedom to rise and fall without judgment or criticism, that we're giving the same consistent encouragement and support regardless of how successful we perceive they might be. Just to be kind and compassionate regardless of what the perceived circumstances that people are living in. So that our friends who appear to be doing really, really well, we give them support and encouragement. And the friends that seem to be reaching out for help, obviously we give them support and encouragement. And to just set the intention to be kind and compassionate, to give people the room to find their own balance in between the perceived successes and failures of life. To give people the freedom to rise and fall without judgment or criticism. So regardless of how high they might appear today or how low they might feel tomorrow, that we're there consistently, offering support and encouragement across all the boundaries or all the steps that we might go in life, whether we're rising or falling, feeling high or low, to be kind at all costs, in all circumstances, to all people, because we never truly know how high someone has climbed or how far they have fallen. And having the support system might mean the difference between a friend caught in a debilitating depression or that friend's ability to see the light of hope, even in the depths of the lows. Also acknowledging that, the person who might appear to be riding high on that wave of success will inevitably face a challenge that might knock them down to the ground, and without a support system around them, that the people we perceive as successful, when they have those internal struggles, knowing that they require just as much encouragement and support as the person struggling in the lows. And that, in fact, it's often the people that are most successful that find it especially challenging to process the lows in an emotionally healthy way. We see this with celebrities who battle depression and drug addiction and all sorts of internal struggles, because on the outside, they appear like they have it all. They're beautiful, they're put together, they're taking a pretty picture. But internally and emotionally, they often feel alone and isolated, to the point that many of them suffer with debilitating depression despite their high-profile public appearance. And it's important to acknowledge that we never really know how low somebody might feel. We never know really how high they feel when they're on that big platform of success. And that regardless of the external persona, that we're all internally dealing with emotional struggles and trials and tribulations that we need to be supported through. And that's why it's so important not to judge someone when you see them in an emotional low. If you see somebody having a difficult time, be compassionate, be kind, because regardless of what the external persona is, we never know how high or how low somebody is feeling at any one point. So that's why it's so important to just be consistently compassionate and kind, because we all need it. We all need support, regardless of how perfect our life might appear. There's always going to be a time where there's this high and low that we're balancing in between. And depending on how we perceive the circumstances of our life will often dictate how we process those highs and lows. So it's like, if you've ever known people who are internally processing emotional struggles, and even on the outside, they appear like everything is fine. Internally that they're going through a lot, in their home life and their relationships, maybe dealing with a relative or a friend or a loved one who's going through a health struggle, and offering just a little bit of support might make all the difference in the world. And, I notice how people deal with circumstances differently, especially when I travel to third world countries. If you've ever traveled to a third world country and you see people living in poverty, they often are much more focused on community and connection because those are the free luxuries of life, right? They spend more time, sharing food and tea and sit and talk and spend time with each other because they don't have material luxuries to share and give as gifts. And for those living in poverty, the slightest gesture of compassion or charity can spark a light of gratitude and appreciation that is beyond measure. And then it's funny because we look at people who are born into privilege and they might be denied access to one thing, and something, a little bump in the road, something doesn't go their way, and they might feel a very deep sense of despair about their future as a result. And it's a lot of times often the people who are perceived to have the most success and stability, the people who are perceived to be living the highs, that many times are the most fragile when their circumstances change. That a slight shift in their access or their privilege might break them down, while those whose social standards would suggest that they're living in the lows need just the smallest gesture of kindness to build them up. So whatever the external perception is, that we are all equally dealing with these internal emotional highs and lows that we need support through, that we need a helping hand, an encouraging word, a supportive friend. So that's why it's so important to check on your strong friends, to reach out to the people who you might not think need it, and knowing that even a kind word or a short text might mean the difference between somebody who's drowning in isolation or somebody who's uplifted by inspiration. That it's these small gestures of kindness that can change people's lives in the biggest way. Because we never know how low people can feel or how far they've fallen in response to a struggle or a circumstance. And in the same way, we never know how high someone can rise with just a small gesture of compassion until we offer it. That emotional stability, for most of us, is a slippery slope. I've noticed that, we're all really one circumstance away from being emotionally unstable. One misstep, one circumstance, one situation, one insult, one injury, one accident, one health scare, one interaction can literally be one circumstance away from being unstable. That we all could be one circumstance away from feeling emotionally unstable. That it's how we process and perceive the circumstances that define the highs and lows of our life. Do we perceive our circumstances as obstacles or as opportunities? Do we believe that everything is possible or that most things are impossible? Do we focus on the doubt or do we believe in the dream? It's how we perceive the circumstances of our lives that dictate whether we're going to be able to move through them in a way that gives us strength, or do we allow them to break us down, that we feel burdened by the weight of the struggle? And literally, most of us, are on this slippery slope of emotional stability where one thing can build us up or break us down. And that when we recognize that each of us are in this space, on this slippery slope, that we might be more likely then to offer support and encouragement, especially to those who we might not think need it in the moment. So giving, a kind, compassionate, supportive gesture or word to somebody who looks like they have it all might mean the difference in their life. In the same way that giving that support and encouragement to somebody who looks like they really desperately need that support might make all the difference to them as well. So checking on our strong friends. So checking on the friends that appear to be floating in the highs and offering them a supportive hand in the same way that we do to those working through the lows. Because we never really know how high someone has climbed. We never really know how low they've fallen. We never really know what somebody is dealing with internally, despite their external persona. And so we want to be easy with people. Give people the room to rise and fall without judgment. And always offering continued support and encouragement to everyone in our lives. Because we really never know what someone is dealing with. And, it's almost comforting in some way to know that, we're all riding these highs and lows together. That by offering a bit of support and encouragement to the person who seems to be riding high and the person who seems to be struggling through the lows, that we're able to offer so much support and encouragement to others that we wind up in that same process supporting and encouraging and inspiring ourselves. So that the person who's successful, we know that at some point they're going to experience a dip in that success or perceived success. Because what is success really anyway, other than our perception of our own ability to rise and fall, right? Our success really isn't defined by a physical measure at all. It's not a goal or an accomplishment at all. It's how we feel in the midst of that. Because if we accomplish the goal and we still feel like we're not enough, is that really success? If we've gotten all the money and all the accolades and all of the recognition, but yet we don't feel fulfilled or content, well, that's not success. And then it's the same way as, the person who's able to acknowledge and appreciate these small accomplishments that might always feel successful, might always feel like they're on top of the world. And that perception internally is often dictating how we show up externally, how we show up in the world, how confident we are, how secure we are. And that each of us are riding these highs and lows. And that it reminds us that we all need to be a little bit more compassionate, give people a little leeway to fall, give them the room to rise, and know that in the midst of these highs and lows, that allowing people to be in that space without judgment, giving them the room to rise and fall without judgment, and just offering our continued support so that people always feel encouraged. They always feel like they have a support system, that they never feel alone in the journey, and that we allow them this continued support, to give them this space where, each of us knows that we have somebody to lean on, that even the strangers, that we meet, that we have the ability to give them a little encouragement and inspiration, and that the people especially who appear to be doing really, really well are often the people that need the most support. Because it's the same way as, living a life of privilege and having one thing go wrong and not maybe having the skill set to process that in an emotionally healthy way, because you're so used to everything being handed to you, or you're so used to everything being easy, that when there is struggle, sometimes those people need even more support than the people who have been struggling all along. Because a lot of times in the struggle, that strength we gain in the struggle is preparing us for everything. So people that have not experienced that might need a little extra support. So check on your strong friends. Check on the people that seem super, super successful. And then always and consistently being there for them in a way that they feel supported, even in the height of their success. Because when inevitably that challenge comes in or that struggle happens, they're going to need that feeling of support and encouragement so that they don't fall down into the depths of despair. And in the same way that we feel that call to help our friends that do reach out, knowing that not everyone is going to reach out. So to give a consistent space of support to everyone in our lives makes a big, big difference. To give a kind and compassionate word to our strongest friends. To give a helping hand, to the friends who we know are struggling. And to allow everyone in our lives, the people we love, the strangers we meet, to give them room to rise and fall without judgment. So that when we rise and fall, we know that there's a supportive hand there to hold us, to guide us, to stabilize us when we need it. Because we're all riding these waves of highs and lows. And it's just a matter of how we show up for each other that dictates how supported we feel in the midst of those highs and lows. So, make an effort today to reach out to the strong friend. Make an effort to, step into that space where we're more compassionate and understanding of the people who are in despair, who are burdened by doubt, and who feel discouraged. And at the same time, knowing that the person who is walking with that air of confidence, might trip, fall, and stumble in the next step. And will certainly need to know that there's a support system there when that happens. So let's just show up in each other's lives in a big way. Let's show up in kindness, show up in compassion, because we never really know the highs that someone is climbing. We never know the depths of the lows that they might be feeling in that moment of discouraged feeling of doubt. And our simple gesture of kindness and compassion can go such a long way to preventing somebody from feeling overwhelmed by that doubt, and can easily pull someone out of the depths of the lows of despair and depression. And because we never really know, what somebody's dealing with internally and emotionally, that it's just important that we show up consistently and offer the best of ourselves to everyone we meet in every moment, in every way we possibly can, because the slightest gesture can make the biggest difference. It can really build somebody up when they need it. That encouraging word, can be the difference between somebody drowning in isolation or being uplifted by inspiration. And each of us have the power to do that in the lives of the people we touch. So just a reminder to reach out to your strong friends, to reach out to the friends who, ask for support, certainly, but to offer support to those who we might not think need it. Because, we might be that strong friend, and we certainly need that bit of encouragement and support, because you never really know how high somebody is feeling or how low they're feeling, but that it's important for us to give them the room to rise and fall without judgment, but with constant support, constant compassion, and the ability to show up in the lives of the people we touch so that it's easier for them to find that balance between the high and low and find that space of equilibrium eventually. And if we can support each other in the highs and lows, certainly we can stand together in the strength and stability of the equilibrium and find the balance together. So know that you have a support system. Reach out to your strong friend and know that your strong friends around you are just as in need of support and stability as the people who are asking for support. And just setting the intention to show up consistently for everyone in all aspects of life so that we have the ability to lift someone up and build them up and encourage and support them when we need it. And just that our friends, lovers, relatives, the strangers that we meet feel that the energy we offer is contributing to the energy that they need to feel more stable, to feel more secure, and to feel supported through the highs and the lows. Blessings, blessings, and blessings. Spoken Word Yoga. Namaste.